Welcome to Islamic Knowledge Hub, authentic Islamic teachings, wisdom, and inspiration. Subscribe and grow with knowledge.
You know, in Islamic theology, there's this concept that is so vast, so magnificent, it almost defies our understanding. It's the Arsh, the divine throne. But what is it really? Is it a physical object, a powerful metaphor, or something else? That's what we're going to get into today, exploring where the literal and the symbolic meet.
So here's the big question we're diving into right at the start. When we talk about the Arsh of Allah, are we talking about a real physical throne? Something of unimaginable size and majesty? Or is it all just a grand metaphor for God's absolute power and authority? As we're about to see, the answer isn't as simple as picking one or the other.
Okay, so to even begin to wrap our heads around something this profound, we have to start with the basics, the language. The key is hidden right there in the word Arsh itself, and it has this fascinating dual nature.
All right, so let's break it down. The word Arsh in Arabic has two pretty distinct meanings. First, its literal meaning is a king's throne, a physical seat where a ruler sits. But it's also used metaphorically to mean sovereignty, power, complete and total dominion. And understanding this duality is honestly the key to unlocking this whole concept. So on one hand, you've got a tangible object, a physical seat for a king. And on the other, you've got the abstract idea of that king's power and control. Now, what our source material makes really clear is that while the metaphorical meaning is totally valid, we can't just ignore its primary, literal meaning of a physical throne. All right, so if the word can literally mean a physical throne, you might be asking, where's the proof? Well, believe it or not, we don't have to look far. The Qur'an itself uses the word Arsh to talk about the very real, very physical thrones of human kings and queens. Take the story of the Queen of Sheba, for example. It's a perfect case study. The Qur'an describes her as having a great throne, a Arshun Azim, and there's absolutely no debate that this was a real physical object. In fact, some of the classical commentators, trying to get across just how grand it was, even described its dimensions, something like 80 by 40 cubits. And it doesn't stop there. We see it again with Prophet Yusuf, or Joseph. When he's finally reunited with his family in Egypt, the verse says he raised his parents up onto the Arsh, his throne. It's another crystal clear example of a solid, physical object that signifies his status and honor. The main takeaway here is really important. The Qur'an itself sets the precedent that Arsh can and does mean a literal throne.
Okay, so with that foundation in mind, knowing that the Qur'an uses Arsh for real, human thrones, we can now turn to the big one, the divine throne itself. The argument from our sources is that this literal meaning isn't just for humans. The Qur'an actually describes Allah's throne in ways that also point to it being a real, created, and absolutely magnificent object.
Just picture this for a second. The imagery here is so powerful. The verse describes angels physically surrounding the throne. Now, you can't surround a metaphor, right? You can't encircle the concept of power. This language strongly suggests a real physical structure, one so immense that legions of angels can actually circle around it. And if that wasn't physical enough for you, check this out. This next verse adds another incredible layer. It says that on the day of judgment, the throne will be carried, and not just by anyone, but specifically by 8 angels. That kind of specific physical detail really adds weight to the idea that we're talking about a real, created object.
8. The Quran doesn't just say angels or many angels, it gives a specific number. For a lot of scholars, this isn't just poetic license, it's a concrete detail that points toward a tangible reality, something that can be counted and borne.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone. Because if we're on board with the idea that the Arsh is a real physical creation, the next logical question is, well, it's just mind-bending. Just how big is this thing? Let's try to even scratch the surface of its unimaginable scale.
This is the question that really challenges our perception of, well, everything. If the throne is the greatest of all creations, how can our tiny human minds even begin to comprehend its size? Our source material gives us a pretty powerful analogy to help us try.
All right, I want you to really let this sink in. The analogy from our sources is this. Take our entire known universe, with all its billions and billions of galaxies, and compare it to the Arsh. The relationship between the two is like a single grain of sand compared to a vast, endless desert. That's the sheer, incomprehensible scale we are talking about.
And to build on this idea of scale even more, the sources introduce another distinct creation, the Kursi, or the footstool. Now, it is crucial to understand that the Kursi is separate from and smaller than the Arsh, and yet this famous verse tells us that the Kursi, by itself, is vast enough to encompass all the heavens and the earth, our entire known reality.
And this just brings it all to a truly awe-inspiring conclusion. Let's connect the dots. If the footstool contains our entire universe, and the footstool is just a small part of the throne, well, the true scale of the Arsh is something that is simply beyond our ability to imagine.
So, where does all this leave us? We started with this question, right? Is the throne a real thing, or is it a symbol of power? The final synthesis suggests the answer isn't about picking a side. It's about bringing both ideas together.
It all comes together like this. The Arsh is presented as a real, physical, and unfathomably vast creation. And precisely because it is the greatest and largest of all creations, it also serves as the ultimate symbol, the ultimate manifestation of God's infinite power and sovereignty. See? The two concepts aren't fighting each other, they're inseparable. The physical throne is the symbol of ultimate power.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've explored definitions, scriptural evidence, and analogies that really push our minds to the limit. But when you step back from all the intellectual details, the real question is this. If this is the scale of just one of God's creations, what does that then tell us about the immeasurable greatness of the Creator himself?